Oh, nice. Awesome. All right, I think we're just about ready, right? I love the exuberance. It's really nice. It really is. It's wonderful to hear such laughter and communication and conversation and joy. I mean, that's what it's about, isn't it? Really, Sangha, companionship, friendship, kinship. So wonderful, wonderful. So, in keeping with the theme for today, the fundraiser, A Taste of Vietnam, Roshi Jun asked if I would teach something on Thich Nhat Hanh, as you know, Vietnamese monk. And I said, of course, all of us, I'm sure, have some exposure, have read, practiced, studied, heard about Thich Nhat Hanh, maybe watched some videos of Thich Nhat Hanh. So it's very meaningful to be able to spend time talking together about the profundity and the simplicity of Thich Nhat Hanh's teachings. So I always like to start off a little bit with a little bit of a bio of the teacher, and not just because it's facts about who they are, but it's the way that we connect to the ancestry, to the lineage. And you know, Thich Nhat Hanh speaks a lot about honoring our ancestors. Well, Thich Nhat Hanh is our ancestor, right? That, you know, we get to appreciate the connection that Thich Nhat Hanh and all of our Zen and Buddhist ancestors have brought to us. We wouldn't be sitting here without the kindness of our teachers, of their teachers, of the teachers before them, going all the way back to Buddha Shakyamuni, going all the way back 2,600 years. We wouldn't have this opportunity right here, right now, to practice, to study, to contemplate without their kindness. I'm reading a text, just a slight diversion. The teachings, the life and Zen teachings of Shunryu Suzuki, Crooked Cucumber. I don't know if anybody's read that text. Phenomenal. And I was just really appreciating the challenges that people go through, coming from another country, leaving friends and family, leaving what's familiar to bring teachings to the West, to bring the Dharma, in Suzuki's case, Suzuki Roshi, San Francisco. So too with Thich Nhat Hanh, born in central Vietnam in 1926, and he entered the monastery at age 16. What were we doing at 16? What were our aspirations? Oh my gosh, let's not go there. And ordained quickly thereafter. So, you know, his Dharma name means one action, which I thought was delightful. Because he's really seen as a leading figure of engaged Buddhism, isn't he? and bringing us the teachings on mindfulness, which we're going to talk a little bit about. But he taught in the West from the 70s to the 2000s, established Plum Village in France, many other training centers, meditation centers, and really brought the core teachings of mindfulness to us, and was a prolific author. He wrote over 100 books. 100 books as his gift to all of us, right? His gift. And then he died at 95 years old in 2022. What really moves me about Thich Nhat Hanh is the simplicity of his teachings. The profundity, the simplicity, the warmth. You know, there's such a warmth in what Thich Nhat Hanh offers in this very beautiful, simple way. It's not complicated. And I think for all of us, the challenge as Dharma practitioners, you know, sometimes we think complexity, complication is better. That there must be something to dig deeper into. But all of our teachers tell us it's right here now. It's just as it is. It's very simple. We want to put layers and layers and layers because we think it'll add extra meaning or a little extra spice to our Dharma practice. But if you read Thich Nhat Hanh's teachings, they go back to basics again and again. He truly helps us reconnect time and time again with beginner's mind. You know, in the beginner's mind, there's endless possibilities, right? We all know this quote. But in the expert's mind, there are few. When we think we know too much, when we think we understand too much, when we start to maybe have a little pride in how much we know, understand, read, study, etc., it takes us away from that moment to see with fresh eyes, to experience the moment as it unfolds, not as we think it should unfold, not as we want it to unfold, but truly as it unfolds, right here and now. So that's what I refer to as the warmth. There's a warmth in Thich Nhat Hanh's expressions that we feel. You sit with his books, you know, his books are usually little, aren't they? I love that. I don't know if you've read Being Peace, came out about 1988, and subsequent revisions, but all of his books contain all of his books, right? All of his books contain all of his teachings. Read one, stay with it, use beginner's mind, and really contemplate. You know, we're not in a race to get through. We don't read Dharma like a magazine, right? We're not just flipping through, curious about the pictures and, oh yeah, that's great, that's great. We read Dharma very differently. So we read it with beginner's mind, even if we've read it a million times before. So I want to just spend a little bit of time talking about some of the pivotal teachings that Thich Nhat Hanh brought to us. And he had a radical idea of peace. We all know what the word means, peace. We can define it, we can talk about it, but Thich Nhat Hanh brought a very radical idea of peace because typically we see peacefulness as being outside of us, don't we? We see peace and happiness coming from something we do, something we achieve, something we get rid of. So we're always tying our peace and our happiness to what's happening in our external world. And if things are going well, then we're peaceful. So we think. Then we're happy. If things are not going well, we're a little disgruntled. We haven't really deeply, consistently understood the relationship between happiness and suffering and our mind, our heart. That's why the teachings are so profound, because they go back and back and back and back again. When we look for something outside of ourselves to give us some relief, some comfort, some peace, some contentment, that is a mistaken view. We're mistaken. It's an unreliable way to look at ourselves and the world, because suffering will ensue, invariably. So, Thich Nhat Hanh is saying, our usual way is, well, I'll work for something, and when the conditions are just right, and I get it, then I can be happy. Then I can be peaceful. Then I can relax, right? You go through a lot of preparation to go on vacation, right? You get tickets, maybe you scored some cheap tickets, a resort, and you think, when I get there, when I'm sitting at the pool with my pina colada, nirvana, right? But then it's a rainy day, and you think, oh. So peace, happiness, suffering are not outside of our mind. We're creating it based on our karma, based on causes and conditions. So Thich Nhat Hanh's view, the radical idea of peace, is that if we truly are not peaceful in our heart, there is no way to accomplish peace in our world. And there is no way to feel peaceful with others. Peace is an inside job, right? I think Sharon Salzberg had a book. I think that was the title of one of Sharon Salzberg's book, Peace is an Inside Job. Don't wait for the conditions to line up. You have them right now. Your sitting practices, what you study, what you read, how you engage with others, with your world. This is the opportunity right now to be peaceful. We have to change our thinking. That's what Thich Nhat Hanh, that's what all of the messages are, not just Thich Nhat Hanh. All the messages are about radical transformation with our attitudes, with our preconceptions, with our thoughts. We see that as true. But in fact, Buddha's teachings say everything that you're thinking, seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, deceptive. Very, very deceptive. But we believe it to be true. And because we believe it to be true, we suffer. That's the bottom line. So Thich Nhat Hanh is saying there's no destination to get to. The opportunities and the experiences are happening right now, right here and now. What you're thinking, what you're feeling. And Thich Nhat Hanh always says, peace is the path itself. It's not waiting to get on the path. It's not seeing the path as something different than right here, right now. The path is not perfection. The path is the messiness of our lives, of our internal states. That's the path. That's why the idea of peace is so radical. Because we have this postcard vision of peace. And Thich Nhat Hanh and all of our Zen masters and teachers, all of our Buddhist teachers are saying, discard that. You will only continue to suffer if that's what you're looking for. More of this, less of that. More of this, less of that. Pick, choose, select, eliminate. The way is not so hard. Doesn't Dogen say that? The way is not so difficult if we avoid picking and choosing. Can we go a day without picking and choosing? Can we go an hour without picking and choosing? That moment that we're like, oh, I don't know if I can eat that. And maybe you can't. That's not to say we're reckless or careless. But we can look at the mind that's generating the wants, the not want, and investigate that. Be curious about it. That's the road to liberation. So this beautiful text, Being Peace, Thich Nhat Hanh is saying, it's not just a feeling. It's a practice. We are forever practicing to transform our heart, to open our heart, to open our mind, to reach out, to connect, to love, to be kind, to lessen the places that are dark in our heart. It's our job. It's our opportunity. So, the practice of being peace is recognizing the hatred, the violence, the aggression, not just in our world. There's a lot that we can recognize in the world and point our finger at, oh, this is a mess, this is wrong, oh my gosh, how could this be going on? But the mirror of Dharma is saying, bring that finger around here, right? What shreds of aggression still linger for you, for all of us? Where are the places that we still feel cut off, that we don't like others, unless they conform to a very certain set of expectations and behaviors? Then we invite them into our heart. But if they don't, not so easy to do. So the possibility, when we recognize that we harbor those feelings of aggression, of hatred, of anger, maybe not in the grand form that we're seeing, but there are elements in our own lives. Snippy speech, passive aggressiveness, sarcasm, telling off-color jokes, the ways in which we still participate in othering, the ways that we participate in seeing the separation between self and other. That's violence, that's aggression. We don't like to see it that way. We certainly don't like to think of ourselves as aggressive, violent individuals with hate. But until it's gone, it's here. But we have confidence because Thich Nhat Hanh, all of our teachers are saying we have possibilities and opportunities to transform this. You just have to make the choice that that's what you wish to do, and you'll stay with it. We recognize the suffering and the harm that it causes, and at some point, we put down the sword, right? We're tired of cutting off heads because we suffer just as much. So at some point, we put down the sword. I want to read a little something from this book. So Thich Nhat Hanh and being peace, he starts with suffering. I think that's brilliant. I think it's brilliant, but it's not about my opinion, right? Life is filled with suffering, but it is also filled with many wonders, like the blue sky, the sunshine, and the eyes of a baby. To suffer is not enough. We must also be in touch with the wonders of life. They are within us and around us, everywhere, anytime. If we are not happy, if we are not peaceful, we can't share peace and happiness with others, even those we love and even those that live under the same roof. That's all we need to know. Lunch. Really. Really. So what are we sharing? Thich Nhat Hanh is saying if we're not happy, if we're not peaceful, if we're not seeing the joys and wonders of life, then what do we share with others in the world? What do we share with our speech? What do we share with our thoughts, with our actions, with our behaviors? What are we sharing? What do we want to share? What are we interested in sharing with the world? So Thich Nhat Hanh said, if we're peaceful, if we're happy, we can smile and blossom like a flower and everyone in our family, our entire society will benefit from our peace. We all know this to be true. When we feel content and we feel open and we feel loving, everyone benefits from that attitude. Because you will be incapable of saying anything unkind. If love is operating in your heart, that's a contradiction. How could you say anything unkind or filled with hate? So we can think about this very, very, very deeply, that wherever we are, anytime we have the capacity to enjoy the sunshine and the presence of each other, even the sensation of our breathing. I want to read one more little paragraph. So Thich Nhat Hanh goes on to say, we are so busy. We hardly have time to look at the people we love, even in our own household, and to look at ourselves. Society is organized in a way that even when we have some leisure time, we don't know how to use it to get back in touch with ourselves. We're so busy. We're so distracted. Distraction, busyness, those are delusions. Those are obstacles in our mind. Because we're not paying attention to what's unfolding right here and right now. We've gone to the past. We're kind of like our own time travelers, honestly. Mm-hmm. We're always bouncing past, future, past, future, past, future. But all we really have is now. So what are we getting away from? The fears and anxieties, the guilt and the shame of the past, the fears and anxieties, the preoccupation of the future. Well, that already happened. It's gone, done, let go. This hasn't happened yet. We simply don't know what will happen. Let go. This is happening. Be present. Be mindful. I want to read you a paragraph that Thich Nhat Hanh talked about in Being Peace, because I very much like this idea of smiling. There are many, many Tibetan practices that encourage, as a practice, as a meditative practice, that we try to cultivate this attitude that we're always on the verge of smiling when we're with others. Always on the verge. You know that feeling of being on the verge of smiling? You feel that warmth in your own heart, the love and expansion in your mind that's starting to arise, and we can smile. So this is what Thich Nhat Hanh talked about when he was with a group of children. He said, recently I was sitting with a group of children and a boy named Tim was smiling beautifully. I said, Tim, you have a very beautiful smile. And he said, thank you. I told him, you don't have to thank me. I have to thank you. Because of your smile, you make life more beautiful. Which is true, right? We smile even at people we don't know. People, speeding next to you on the expressway. That's a practice, right? Smiling, nodding, smiling. At Whole Foods, right? You're in the 15 items or less aisle and someone in front of you has about 30. Are we on the verge of smiling? So many ways we can practice simple gestures for us. When we're on the verge of smiling, it's not this artificial, inauthentic practice, because something's shifting in our heart. We're loosening. We're warming. Our affection is growing. Now, this is the practice, right? We cannot practice compassion if we exclude certain groups of people. Compassion is not just our inner circle. It might start there, and a lot of times compassion isn't even present all the time with our inner circle, right? So the practices of compassion, of being peaceful, are about inclusivity. No one left out. No one. However they're appearing to us, that's worth our investigation. Because if we feel some sense of rejection, we need to take a look at that. That is not a loving mind. That is not a compassionate mind. That is a deluded mind. Because there is something that we're unhappy about, that we're irritated by. That's why everything can be our teacher. Everything is the mirror of Dharma. Everything that we hold up, that appears right in front of us, is showing us exactly where we're stuck or exactly where we're free. Everything. You don't have to look too far. You don't have to carry books with you, right? You just live and breathe in the world and move about your world with this openness. So this is what Thich Nhat Hanh calls the basics of peace work. The basics of peace work. Learning how to smile. Watching what arises in our own consciousness, our own mind. Remembering that what we hold inside, we send out. It's a ripple effect. It might be unseen, but our speech, words are powerful, right? They land on people, on our heart, on our world, in our homes. Words matter. Our speech matters. Actions matter. Thoughts matter. We can't escape thoughts. We might think that we can escape saying something unskillful, but if we're still thinking it, that's a disconnect, right? You're not going to be authentic if you're just kind of mouthing something, but you're not really feeling it. So this is why the practices of looking at, body, speech, and mind, thought, speech, and actions are so closely related. And we create karma with thoughts. We think, okay, well, I didn't go off on my boss or my coworker, but you had a litany of words that you would have said. You're still creating karma, even if you haven't shared it, because it's still arising. The opportunities to be free from that karma is when the thoughts of anger, aggression, and hatred do not arise anymore. That's a freedom from that karma, when those thoughts do not arise. But we can be very mindful in our practices of thought, speech, action, and how they're interrelated, and what we're sending out, what we're sharing. I love that notion of asking ourselves, do I really want to share this? Do I want to share my irritation with my coworker? Do I want to pull somebody else into my misery because it makes me feel better? That someone's going to say, oh yeah, you have every right to be angry. Now there's two of us going off, right? And pretty soon there'll be three. And pretty soon there'll be a whole community. And pretty soon there'll be a band of ICE agents that are going off, that are filled with this hatred. So one person can make a difference, right? We cut off the mind stream of that endless complaining, irritation, anger. We cut off our own mind stream of those unskillful actions. And you feel that presence. When you're in the presence of someone who is emanating love and kindness and warmth, what does that feel like to you? As opposed to someone who's grouchy, complaining, angry, hateful. What does that feel like to you? This is how we verify through our life's experiences. And we come to the conclusion that deluded states of mind, the negative states of mind, the hurtful states of mind only cause damage and destruction. Only. There is never an appropriate use of a deluded mind. Ever, ever, ever. And when we're free from that, we recognize we're peaceful. We feel content. We feel like we can open up to others without fear of them taking something from us or perverting something in our thinking or our heart. We have no fear. Why does the Bodhisattva of compassion, Avalokiteshvara, has boundless compassion? Meaning there are no limits. We have limits now, but we're training, we're practicing. And we start to see the edges of our boundaries expanding and growing. We think, oh, that wasn't so hard. That wasn't so hard to extend a courteousness to the checkout person, to engage in some small talk conversation that is warm, that notices who they are, maybe asks their name, smiles. So one of the other teachings that I know all of you know that Thich Nhat Hanh was quite well known for is the idea of interdependence, interconnection. You know, he talked about, he developed many words, inter-are, that we are always in relationship to other, you know, recognizing that we cannot separate our peace from the world. Without inner peace, there is no outer peace for each and every one of us. Where do we think peace is going to come from? Are we writing our Congress people and senators saying, can you create peace for us? Where do we think peace comes from? If not, inside our own heart. And then it extends. We have a zendo of people practicing peace. Wow. When you leave here, what are you bringing? What are we bringing out to the world? This is how it changes. This is the manifestation of goodness and love in the world. We're in here training, practicing, being interconnected, recognizing we all want peacefulness. Everyone. This is our common ground with all people in our life, in our world. Everyone wants to be happy and free from problems. Even if you don't know them, you can make the assumption when you see someone, they just want to have what's best for them and their family. They want to have food, clean water, shelter, clothing, love. So, when we feel peaceful, we don't have to do anything. We're automatically sharing it. We don't have to think, okay, well, how can I, involve somebody else in my peace? We don't have to do anything. We just be, inter-are. That's what Thich Nhat Hanh says over and over again. And the underlying assumption is also the underlying assumption of wisdom realizing emptiness. Nothing exists independently. Nothing exists inherently separate. You know Thich Nhat Hanh's, where he holds up a piece of paper and says, it's so easy for us to compartmentalize and to see things as separate, unique, independent. We don't consider the chain of causation. We don't consider the interdependence of how does clean water come to me? How do those groceries magically appear on the shelves in grocery stores? When I sit down for a meal, how did that food arise? Unless you're self-sustaining, you've got a garden in your backyard and you grow, harvest, but where did that come from? We could go back and back and back, turtles all the way down, right? We will never find the origin point of separateness, of independence. So interconnection is, you become, Thich Nhat Hanh says, you become like a candle that lights other candles. But your flame doesn't go out when you do that. Instead now, we have 30 candles shining brightly. Loving the world, loving others, sharing. So let me read a little bit. So how do we do this? Thich Nhat Hanh says, even though life is hard, even though it's sometimes difficult to smile, we have to try. Doesn't that sum up our practice? We have to try. Days you don't feel like getting out of bed to sit, or coming into the zendo, or speaking kindly to children or spouses or friends. We have to try. We just simply try. And we try again, and we try again, and we keep trying, and we keep trying. Just as when we wish each other good morning, it must be a real good morning. Right? How many times you pass somebody, how are things going? Fine, fine, fine. How about with you? Fine, fine, fine. Wouldn't you love to hear, how are things going? Well, I'm really struggling right now. What does that do, right? We're like, oh, I only have 5 minutes. I'd rather hear everything's fine. Everybody on our way. Connection over and done. That's it. You don't have to stop. But this is what Thich Nhat Hanh is sort of encouraging us to do. Are we being authentic? Are we sincere? Are we genuine? And then he says, how can I force myself to smile when I'm filled with my own sorrow? And his antidote is, we must be able to smile to our sorrow because we're more than our sorrow. He said, a human being is like a television set with millions of channels. If we turn the Buddha on, we're the Buddha. Isn't that beautiful? If we turn the Buddha on, we're the Buddha. If we turn sorrow on, we're sorrow. If we turn a smile on, we really are the smile. We can't let just one channel dominate us. We have the seeds of everything in us. So he said, meditation is the opposite of this busyness, distractedness, constant movement, constant agitation. It helps us return to our true self. But practicing meditation in this kind of society is very difficult. Everything seems to work in concert to try to take us away from our true self. But practicing meditation is to be aware, is to smile, is to breathe. You know, Thich Nhat Hanh gave a very powerful encouragement, like what you can sort of do in the present moment. And he said, you know, when you're aware of this constant movement, motion, agitation, irritation, that he said, stop. Be still, sit, and breathe. Like that's what they practiced at Plum Village. I mean, I've never been there, but all that I've read, that when they would strike the mindfulness bell, that was your cue to stop, breathe, get quiet, be quiet for a moment. We're interrupting the endless mind stream of thoughts, wishes, desires, impulses, reactions, etc., etc., etc. So we can practice mindfulness in a very, very simple way, right? You know, the practice of mindfulness, Thich Nhat Hanh describes it as it's an awareness of the present moment, the awareness of what is. The definition that Zen Life Center uses is an intentional awareness that's embodied in without judgment. And we've got classes coming up, meditation for everyone. If you like being in connection with others and want to know more about meditation, even if you've studied this for years, take a beginning class again. It's coming up January 20th, meditation for everyone. It's not meditation just for beginners, right? Would you still learn something as someone who's practiced for years and years? Oh, for sure, for sure. So when we're mindful, we're just aware, we're present. We're present. You know when you're present or you're not, right? You know, you can be having full conversations with people and your mind is somewhere totally different. Do you think that breaks a little bit of the authenticity of kindness and compassion? Does someone feel the lack of your presence? The lack of your connectedness? Of course. How could they not? Because you feel it when someone does that to you. So Thich Nhat Hanh had many, he had 5 particular, what he called mindfulness trainings, but I'm not going to go into that today because I want to keep it a little bit lighter and looser and have some discussion. But I want to read, this cracks me up every time. It's just so beautiful. You know, Thich Nhat Hanh said, understanding, truly understanding and being present means throwing away your knowledge. And that's not to say what we've collected over the years hasn't helped us with careers, with earning money, with resources, but true understanding does not come from intellect. We know this. It comes from wisdom. So, and he says the problem is whether we're determined to go in the direction of compassion or not. So it's not going to magically appear. Are we determined to go in the direction of compassion? Are we determined to go in the direction of wisdom? So Thich Nhat Hanh tells this story. There's a Zen story about a man riding a horse that is galloping very quickly. Another man standing alongside the road yells at him, "Where are you going?" The man on the horse yells back, "I don't know, ask the horse." Right? That's our situation. Right? We're galloping. We've got many horses, don't we? We're just galloping along. Where are you going? I don't know, ask the horse. I'm not in control of this situation. Right? Simply not in control. So Thich Nhat Hanh said, you know, we are riding many horses that we can't control. We've tried our best. And we keep trying, but we can't control them. Our lives are so busy. You know that old story where someone was really, a businessman went to the Buddha. I think I might be making this up, I don't know. I apologize. That's why I prefaced. I might be making some of this up.
None of us have ever done it.
You're allowed to do that.
Thank you. You know, a business went to the Buddha, or a student goes to a teacher and said, "Well, I'm very busy, I don't have time to meditate. What should I do?" Well, then meditate for an hour. Right? I'm very busy. I don't have time for that. Very busy. We're busy. Busy people. How many horses do we have in our stable that we're trying to control? And we've tried our very best. And are we still free? Do we feel free? Is our mind free? Do we feel content and peaceful? What's changed? What do we share every day, every moment of the day? What do we share with ourselves? And what do we share with others? So, lastly, in Buddhism, the most important precept of all is to live in awareness, to know what's going on. To know what is going on, not only here, but there. to stay connected to our world, to stay connected to others, to stay connected to ourselves, our own thoughts and feelings. And are we going in the direction, do we have the determination to live more peaceful lives? To be candles, going back in our families and our communities, sharing the light, and then suddenly the block, our community, is ablaze in light, right? Christmas decorations are sort of a image of that. You know, everybody decorates, you go out, and it's just magnificent. The wonders of light. So many houses and trees, and well, that's our hearts. We can have that too, individually and with each other. That's how we make the changes. That's how we change the world. I mean, of course, writing letters, protesting, social action. Thich Nhat Hanh was a leading figure in engaged Buddhism. That's not to say it's not useful. But how are we cultivating the peace in our heart? What are we doing to offer the light to others so that we all shine brightly? Thank you. So let's just open it up. I know we have about 10 or 15 minutes. Just see what thoughts arise, what feelings arise, how you might like to talk about this.
Questions at all?
Oh, Gary?
Well, thank you for that. It's always inspiring. Some number of years ago, we had an opportunity, and we went to a retreat in Colorado that was hosted by Plum Village, and he was there, and it was a life-changing experience, so to speak. And I'm not exaggerating, at least for myself. But one of the things that we learned, his staff was quite accessible to everybody, was that during the Vietnamese War, he was not trusted, he was suspect by both sides, the North Vietnamese
Yes.
and the Viet Cong and the Americans, and a number of monks there disappeared. But he continued on,
Yes,
and that has always stuck with me.
yes. Thank you, Gary. Thank you. That's a beautiful notion to continue on. I mean, you know, in circumstances that could otherwise bring somebody to their knees, but to continue on for the benefit of all, benefit of others. That's beautiful. Thank you.
Myogetsu, thank you for your beautiful talk, and I think it's wonderful that we're creating original Buddha stories now. I love that. But this strikes me so directly because yesterday, while I was in Thatcher Woods working with some high school kids, having a wonderful, very peaceful time talking about things and, you know, teaching them some stuff, ICE came to my block. And they tried to, this is a completely peaceful Oak Park block. You would not think anything would happen. However, there they were. And they tried to abduct a landscape worker, and my neighbors stopped them. I wasn't there, and so we're all getting whistles, and you know we're forming a rapid response team because you know, and we're also right near the high school, and we're all being more vigilant because some kids were abducted on their way to school at York High School, and so you know the high school community. You know, I know that some of the teachers and stuff we're all, and the security is beefed up and everything. So this. And well, I mean, you know, we all know how we feel about this, but I woke up this morning thinking about it, and then I was thinking about the SNAP benefits, and I made up my mind that I'm going to take a lot of food over to the Oak Park Food Pantry, which is open tomorrow, everybody, and Tuesday, collecting donations if you need to. But I had this feeling of, and I don't want to call it rage, but it's this deep feeling of needing to act in some way. And I'm grateful to your talk because it reminds me that it's possible to be very engaged and do what you need to do without having rage. Because I don't feel enraged, so I feel good.
Yes. Thank you, Diane.
One note, by the way, and I didn't make it during announcements, but this is a really good time to do it. Our liturgy calendar is changing as a result of the drop in federal funding for SNAP benefits. We have always done Gate of Sweet Nectar in the first Sunday of every month. We're now going to be doing it every other week. So next week, we will be collecting food again, and we'll be doing it twice a month. And we'll be collecting any food after Taste of Vietnam. Anytime you come in, we're going to collect it here and then bring it up. So again, it's a way of doing it that is in keeping with the Buddhist tradition, the Zen tradition, and I really love that it fits in.
Beautiful. Thank you, Diane. Go.
Hi, Myogetsu. Thank you so much. That was a beautiful talk. It brought to mind Thich Nhat Hanh talks about posture for meditating. He says we should have half a smile on our face. That's really sweet.
Yeah. Thank you, Ondo. Which you often do. I see that. You have a very warm smile.
Yeah, I loved your talk. It was great. I love Thich Nhat Hanh. Yeah, I think I read a couple of his books like a year or two ago, and I think one of the teachings that from him that was really like impactful to me was about, I think, approaching like your emotions with curiosity. And it's like, I think he described like your anger like it's like a small child, like this sort of like I feel like people spend a lot of time trying to like sort of like anger is a thing that you're not supposed to feel, and that we got to like, you know, shut it up or quiet it, you know, bring it back under, you know, control and this kind of stuff. And spending more time instead of trying to, I mean, obviously don't lash out, but spending time to like really like observe your anger or your sadness or the emotional states that you're in and listen to them and just sort of be with them. And I think that's helped me a lot in terms of being able to just sort of sit with, it's strange being like, feeling like you're able to sit with your emotions in a way that's like, you're apart from them almost.
Yes.
And able to sort of understand them more. I think that's a lot of why people are, what anger is in a lot of ways is expression, and it's a desire to be heard or listened to.
Yes.
So listening to yourself and being present with yourself allows you to kind of answer them. Yeah.
Thank you, Sam. And you know, Thich Nhat Hanh also said, treat anger like your little brother. Take his hand. Because it's present. But how would you treat someone that in that way, like with care? We have to care for what's appearing in our hearts and minds and recognize, you know, how it's harming, how it's helping, so that we have capacity, motivation, interest in lessening that. So, thank you. Anyone online? Oh, Robin.
I was just thinking, you know, with the class that we've done with you on slogans, one of the ones that it just fascinates me is stay close to your resentment. And I've been thinking about that a lot. And I don't use the word resentment very much in my own life. I didn't think I had much resentment. I knew I had anger at some kinds of things. But since I've been using the word resentment and looking at it, I see that underneath the anger is resentment. And it's just been really interesting to look at, what am I resentful of? or what am I feeling resentful about? And it's really been a great one. And your talk today is just perfect timing with that. So thanks so much.
Thank you, Robin. Thank you. Thanks for tying that in. So relevant.
And that's great. I want to tie in too, because Robin, thank you, because back to Lojong, the whole thing about practicing patience, that slogan. And Trungpa Rinpoche says, you know, patience is like a endurance and like a suit of armor. Okay, well, that's a little bit hard for me, but I was imagining it as a cloak, an invisible cloak you could wrap around yourself. And now, as you've been talking about this today, it occurred to me that goes back deep through your whole self. You know, that it's not a cloak; it's this whole different coloration and embodiment that then I think it connects with the peace,
Yes.
with the idea of the practice of peace, because you can't do that. I mean, at least in my experience, unless you're patient, you're enduring what you could be resentful of, or you're thinking about it.
Yes.
So that just gave me a whole new way of, like, four-dimensional robe of patience, maybe. You know, I don't know. So molecular, who knows? But
Thank you, Adrian. Okay. Erin.
Thanks so much, Myogetsu. So on Saturdays or when I miss the morning meditation, sometimes I'll use the Plum Village app. Recommend. But yesterday I did a meditation on Mother Earth with the app, and just to sort of add on to what you said about interdependence, you know, it was a lot about that. And one thing I thought was really interesting and helpful for me was thinking about breathing as the support of the earth.
Oh, beautiful. Beautiful.
Right? And directly being part of the earth with every breath.
Oh, Erica, beautiful.
So I thought that was really, I mean, you know, so great teacher.
Thank you, Erica. Okay, any last minute? Great. Well, then let's adjourn. Those of you that are staying for the luncheon, I guess setup will be happening, so you're welcome to participate in that. And those of you going on your way, don't forget to smile.
Thank you.
Thank you. No, thanks. So much
Good to see you. You here for some good food? Are you sticking around? Oh my gosh, it smells so good upstairs.